So formative assessment means checking in with the students, not just at the very end with their big exam, but throughout the year, because you can't possibly know what they're missing unless you have a little bit of data. So before I started using Mentimeter for my formative assessment, a big difficulty that I had with my students was the classic, hey, are we good to move on? Everyone's just kind of going with the flow, but there wasn't ever really a concrete way to know, did they get it? So I started using Mentimeter's quizzes for formative assessment by just taking a couple of questions at the very end of my presentations. Let's say today's class had 3 topics. I'd add 2 questions on this one, 2 questions on this one, 2 questions on this one. Nice and easy. I thought they were fun, but then I started realizing people didn't really get topic 1 because I can see that a bunch of people are not getting those answers correct. And it showed me maybe right now at the end of class, I can just quickly go back to topic 1, re-summarize it, make sure that they really understood it. So one of my favorite ways to use Mentimeter for quizzes is right at the beginning of class with a recall question. Do you remember yesterday's topic and the things that we talked about yesterday? Another way that I like using Mentimeter quizzes is actually as a tee-up to one of my current topics. So you ask a very simplistic question, and this immediately leads you into the topic that we're talking about. Following that, I also like having quizzes right at the end of a topic. That way, just before we move on to the next one for today, I can make sure that you really understood this topic. So the impact that the quizzes had on my students is immediately noticeable, especially when you kind of, bribe them with a little bit of candy. If you're the top 3 winners of today's quiz, here's a little bit of candy. And just that little fact gets them immediately involved in all of the quizzes and all of the slides leading up to those quizzes. Because at any point they know that I might just quiz them on the slide that came before it. So immediately they're going to be engaged. So after my quizzes, I always have a moment of discussion with my students. I put the quiz up, and even if they 100% got it correct, I still make sure to go through all the wrong answers, why they're wrong, and the correct answer, why that one's right. It's especially useful when a lot of students don't get the question correct, because then it lets me really emphasize why this question is important and why you should learn all the different points, why this is wrong, why this is right. So if you want to get into a little bit of formative assessment, adding some quizzes into your slides, there's a couple little tricks that I've picked up along the way. First one here is you can keep it simple. Just going through a topic, keeping it simple, making sure that people actually get it, that's still a phenomenal talking point. However, don't be afraid to also throw some really convoluted questions in there. Something that really makes the students think. Especially because at the end of those questions, all of them, always have a little bit of a conversation about it, especially the difficult ones. With the difficult ones, you can point to it, talk about it for an extra minute, talk about the answers, why it's right, why it's wrong. In addition, don't be afraid to throw in some really fun options into your quizzes. I do it all the time. I have one right answer, then I have some wrong ones, and then I have one that's really, really wrong. But it's comedic, and it really helps build that connection. You'll always hear it when my students see that last option, and then they can't help but laugh at whatever I've decided to throw in.